Hey everybody, Matt with Safari P. Glad you could join me. Really appreciate you showing up and spending some time with me today. Today we are going to be going over Appraise-It Pro. This is our tips and tricks webinar, and the purpose of this webinar is this is a part two to our introduction to Appraise-It Pro webinar that we do. So if you haven't done the introduction to Appraise-It Pro webinar, you may want to go back, and because this, you'll be able to use this link that was emailed to you to view this webinar anytime. So what you can do is you can go back to one of the previous introduction to Appraise-It Pro webinars, watch one of those, and then you will be able to have the foundation that you'll need for this webinar. So in this webinar, we're going to assume that you already have installed Appraise-It Pro, that you've been using it, that you've been doing some appraisals with it, things like that. So we are going to go ahead and we will get started. So let's go ahead and let's crank up. Oh, by the way, a couple things about this webinar. If this happens to be one of your first webinars with us, we're doing these on YouTube. If you don't really know YouTube, on the right-hand side over here, there is going to be a chat that you can interact with me with and ask questions and talk to amongst yourselves about different things regarding this webinar and anything else that we're going to be talking about here. And if you're not signed into YouTube, you can use my email address to get in contact with me, both during this webinar live, and you can also talk to me after the fact. So if you're watching this later on, you can email any questions that you have to training@sfrep.com. That's training@sfrep.com. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. If you are having a hard time seeing this video because it's a little bit small, down on the lower right hand corner over here, there are going to be some buttons down there. One of them looks like some brackets, more of a square. If you click on that, it's going to go full screen. If you do go full screen, you'll be able to see everything better, but you won't be able to ask questions, so keep that in mind. The other thing is going to be like a long rectangle. When you click on that, it's going to go into theater mode. That will give you a larger video window, but you will still be able to access the chat, which will then be moved down below. Okay, so let's go ahead and we will take a look at Appraise-It Pro. I'm going to crank it up here. And of course, the splash screen, once again, is going to be on my other monitor, so you didn't see that, but we're going to go ahead and we are going to boot right into Appraise-It Pro. So some of these things, dependent upon when you watched the introduction to Appraise-It Pro webinar, some of this stuff I may have already gone over. I'm going to try to skip around in the things that I want to go over to kind of hit the highlights, because I don't want this to take too long and I want to be able to get to y'all's questions. Okay. I think most of you probably already know about the shrinking text. I'll go over that real quick just so you can kind of see it. The easiest place to show this to you is in the city field. If I type in Charlotte a couple of times, I can fit 2 in there. If I go 3, it's going to automatically shrink the text there. The cool thing about this is that if you're doing this in one of these multi-line fields where you have enough room for a couple of sentences, maybe a small paragraph, the more area that you have, the more letters that you have to shrink, that means you're going to be able to fit more into the actual field. So instead of being able to fit like one word in there, you might be able to fit 1 or 2 small sentences in there. And that can be really helpful in preventing you from having to trip over into extended comments. Now, one thing that a lot of people need to do is import data from another report. And in Appraise-It Classic, this was a little bit of a convoluted type process. You would have to go up to the menu and then do an import, and then you have to like browse to that particular file. There was no real search for it. So we've made it much, much easier in Appraise-It Pro. Now, there are 2 ways to do this. You can go to the home menu and you can click on import forms or import comparables. You can do one or the other. And that process is somewhat similar to how it was in Appraise-It Pro, or excuse me, in Appraise-It Classic. However, if we go back to this backstage area, and then we come down here to search, we can actually fill this out, do a search, find the report that we're looking for. Then I can right click here and select import forms, or I can highlight it by single clicking on it and then go and click on import forms over here in the lower right hand corner. That's going to bring up this import forms dialog. And now I can choose what forms that I want to grab from this particular report. And here I can grab any of the major forms here. The other thing I can do is I can import comps. So I can right click here and now I can just import the comps. You can also do this in the comp manager. And by the way, the comp manager is the same in Appraise-It Classic and Pro. So I don't generally go over that. If you are looking for a training course on comp manager, we do have a video, or you can contact me directly. I can give you the link to the video, or I can set up a one-on-one training with you. So here you can actually import the comparables, or you can just import the different forms. And you can choose how much or how little that you want to bring in there. You can also, you have more granular control here. I can choose to overwrite already populated fields. I can decide to exclude or include the extended comments, and I can also include the adjustments or exclude them. By default, include adjustments is going to be turned on. I'd probably say go ahead and overwrite populated fields as well, especially if this is a blank report that you're bringing stuff in from. But you can make that decision there. All right. Next, we're going to go into dragging and dropping photos. This is one of my favorite features of Appraise-It Pro. So if I go back in here to this blank report, we'll come down here to one of these photo pages. By the way, I do want to show you in Appraise-It Pro, gosh, we added it, I think back in the fall. I can't remember which version, but it's definitely in the current version of Appraise-It Pro. You can add different photo pages in here. Let's see. If I type in photo here, I have a bunch of different photo pages that I can add in here. So if I come down here to like say, where are the photo pages I want? Subject photos. I've got all these general photo pages. We've added a bunch of them. There is, I'm going to add the 12 per page in letter format, 15 per page in legal. There's also I think there's an 8. Yeah, there's the 8 legal. So those are kind of the big ones. If I do save and close to add those, you can see that the 12 per page letter is basically the same as the 15 per page legal. It's just the legal is a little bit taller, so I can add a couple more photos. And of course, we have the existing 6 per page legal, which have larger photos. And there is also an 8 per page legal as well. The 8 per page is really handy. You can use these for adding, photos of a really cool garage or a pool house, something like that. So let's actually do the 8 per page legal. That's one of my favorites. And do I have some photos? You know what? I forgot to put some photos in here. Let me see if I can find some photos here real quick. Do I have any photos that I can add? I might not. Yeah, I do. Here we go. I'll just, you'll have to forgive me. I am aviation. My hobby is transportation photography. So I do have a bunch of photos of like, airplanes and such. So let's move those over here. And so you're going to see some of my photography. I just don't have any photos of houses right now, but this will do. It'll be able to show you how this works. Now, this process I'm about to show you will work from any folder in Windows. It'll also work from most photo management programs. So if you have a favorite photo management program that you use, maybe one that came with your camera, this will work just the same. You can generally drag and drop from programs and from Windows. So you'll see here on this desktop, I've got a couple of photos here. I can just simply click and drag them into Appraise-It. So it's real simple here. Just click and drag. So if you don't want to use the image manager to manage your photos, you can just click and drag stuff over. You can still use image manager if you want, but this is available. Now, you'll notice there are some what do you call them? Letterboxes, little bars here because the aspect ratio doesn't match. So when you're taking photos, if you're taking photos with an iPhone or definitely iPhones, they take photos that are the same aspect ratios. They'll fit nicely. If you're using an Android phone, you can tell them to do an aspect ratio. I think it's a 3:2 aspect ratio. And then they'll fit. You don't want to do the 16:9 aspect ratio that a lot of the widescreen that a lot of Android phones do because they're not going to fit very well. But you can, if you want, modify these photos so they'll squish them a little bit. I like to have the letterbox instead. So that's how you can quickly drag and drop photos, and it works really well. We do get a lot of questions about creating a template. I do go over it a little bit in the Introduction to Appraise-It Pro webinar. Creating a template in Appraise-It Pro, it's very similar to the way skeletons were used in Appraise-It Classic. Doing a template in Appraise-It Pro is very simple. All a template is in Appraise-It Pro, it is just a regular report file that has been promoted to template status. And the way you promote something to template status, you can just go ahead and open up a blank report, come over here into the report panel, get everything in the right order that you want it. Also add the addenda that you like to add to your report and pre-fill out any data that you want. So if you're doing a template for a suburb called Matthews, or maybe for a specific lender, you can go ahead and fill some information out in here and maybe put some images of your licenses, or depending upon, I think if you're in Missouri or North Carolina, you also have to put your seal on there. So you can go ahead and get all that done, get it all prepared. And then if you want to use it later on down the road as a template, you simply come over here to Home, click on Save As, select Save As Template, and then this one let's call it Pineville. I'm from Charlotte, so I'm going to be using all these suburbs of Charlotte. That's just what I know. So we'll save that in there. Now that is Pineville. Now what I can do is I can close out of this report. No, I don't want to save it. Come back over here. And when I go to New and I select the 1004 from the list, you'll see now Pineville is listed there. If I double click on it, it'll simply open up that template. So templates, super easy in Appraise-It Pro, super easy to manage them. In Appraise-It Classic, if you wanted to put, let's say, extra comp pages in there, it was a whole process you had to go through, real convoluted. In Appraise-It Pro, you just come in here, you add some extra comp pages, just using these little pluses here. So if I want to do some extra comp pages, just click the pluses there. And I'm doing 7 through 9. There's 10 through 12, 13 through 15. And I've updated that. Come in here. Save as template. I'm just going to save it as the same name, overwrite it, and boom, I've just updated my template. Super simple to work with. Now for this next one, I'm going to go ahead and close out of this blank report, and we are going to open, we're going to go to recent reports and open up this sample report here, just so we have a report that has some data. And we're going to go over how you can easily move comps around, paste comps, things like that. Now you can still do this in the comp manager, but you can also do it from within Appraise-It Pro without having to launch some other program. And what I'm about to show you will both work from within the report that you have open, but you can also open up a second report in a second instance of Appraise-It Pro. And if you don't know, to open up another instance of Appraise-It Pro, you can just double click on a new file, or like if you browse to it in the Windows file manager, or you can just simply come in here and click on New Window and open up a new version of Appraise-It Pro, and then open up a file in there. And so the way this works is, let's say that we wanted to get rid of comp number 3. So to clear comp number 3, I just click anywhere in the comp. Doesn't matter, just click anywhere in there. And then I'm going to come up here to clear comp, say yes, and now it's gone. Now let's say I want to move comp number 1 over to comp number 3. I want to move it. So I'm going to right click anywhere in comp number 1. I'm going to click on cut comp, and then I come over here and I click on paste comp. And once again, if I had another report open on, say, my other monitor, I could copy, cut, paste between those different reports as well. And let's say I wanted to copy, let's say that my comp number 1 and my comp number 3 are very similar to each other. So I just want to copy comp number 3 over to comp number 1 and then do a couple of small edits to it. I can just right click in here, select copy, come over here, right click, select paste, and boom. Now I've done that. Real simple to do that. You can also, of course, do that in the Appraise-It comp manager as well. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can copy individual things over. Now, of course, you can just do, let's get rid of, say, this one, and this one. Now, if you wanted to take the subject information and put it over here in comp number 3, easy way to do that. You can just do Control C, come over here, just do a Control V. But the other way you can do that is you can come over here to comp number 3 and just do equal S, tab out, and it will automatically copy whatever is in S for subject, whatever is in the subject field, over here to comp number 3. A couple of other shortcuts you can do equal equal, and it will copy everything from subject into all of these. So that way you don't have to like copy and paste 3 times. Or let's do equal S here, and then let's say we wanted to have whatever is in comp number 1 be the same for comp number 3, equal 1. There we go. We've copied whatever is in comp number 1 over to comp number 3. There is also one other way you can do this if you are using the format panel over here in order to fill out your UAD fields. There is also a same as subject button up here, so you don't have to actually leave this area. So if I am in comp number 2 and I know that it's going to be, the view is going to be the same as the subject, I can just click on the same as subject button and then tab out, and then there you go. It's going to put all that in there. Now, for the next one, we're going to be doing customized searches. If I am moving too fast for anybody, just let me know, but I'm trying to move this along so we can cover as much as possible. But sometimes I'm a city boy. Sometimes I speak a little bit fast, so just let me know if you want me to slow down. So we're going to move over now to the search. And what I want to show you here is how you can actually customize search. Howard asked a question. Remember, you can use the chat over to the right or down below to ask any questions. Howard says, I found that swapping only 2 comps at a time is insufficient. Is there a way to drag and drop them instead of swapping? Yes, you would need to do the drag and dropping. Howard, you would need to use, and let me jump over into that. You would need to use the comp manager. And let's see, if I go over here to search addresses and report, there we go. So if I remember correctly, if I can get rid of 4 here, yes. And then there is a way to do this. And you know what, Howard, I have completely blanked on this. You can drag and drop from over here into there, but if you wanted to drag, say, comp number 1 to comp number 4, then no, there is not a way to do that. I thought that we had added the ability to drag and drop here, but I may be remembering that wrong, and there may have been a technical reason why we couldn't do that. But if you contact their tech support, they may know the way to do this, but I thought we had implemented that. But now that I'm thinking about it, there may have been a technical reason why we didn't have that in there. Yeah, just email me later, and we'll get on that. But at the moment, no, there isn't a way you can just simply drag and drop them. But there may be. I can't remember, to be honest with you. It's been a while. All right. Where were we? Okay, let's go back over here to search. So the search here is very powerful. It's very similar to the index or the file index in Appraise-It Classic. But this is fully customizable, unlike it is in Appraise-It Classic. So I'm going to clear my search here. Now, just for demonstration purposes, let's say that you are registered in the state of North Carolina. You're licensed in North Carolina, but you're not in South Carolina. So you're only going to be doing things in North Carolina. So there is absolutely no reason to have the state field here. So if you want to get rid of the state field, you have 2 options. You can either click here where this little trash can is to remove this particular field, or you can use this pull down menu and change the state field to any of these other fields that are tracked by the automatic file indexer. So let's get rid of state there. I don't need it. There, we're done. So I can only have the things that I ever search on here. However, if at some other point in time I become licensed in the state of South Carolina as well, because for those of you who don't know, Charlotte is right on the border with South Carolina. So most appraisers in the Charlotte area are probably, or a large number of them are probably already also licensed in South Carolina, so they can get some extra work for suburbs like, Rock Hill, and for York, and for Lancaster, places like that. So what we can do here, if we become licensed and we need to start searching for different states, I can come over here to this blank field here, pull this down, and I can select state. But now it's kind of orphaned by itself over here on the right, and I want to put it after city. So what I can do is I can use these little arrows, and I can move it up in the list here. And now it is after city where it belongs. So we're going to have county, city, state, and zip code. So all of this is completely customizable, and you can temporarily change things here. So if I want just for this one time, I want to search by something else. I could come over here to, let's say, order number and select it to be room count, search by room count. And then when I'm done, I can put it back to order number. So real easy to customize these and to use different search criteria whenever you need to. And then whenever you've put all that in there, you just click on search and it'll show you your particular search results. Now, a cool thing about this area, and it's also located on the home menu, so I'll show you that real quick. If you come back over here, what I'm about to show you, we're going to be talking about the work file in Appraise-It Pro. This is something unique to Appraise-It Pro that wasn't in Appraise-It Classic. And this is how you get to it here. Work file is a folder that is created by Appraise-It Pro. It's a regular Windows folder that is created by Appraise-It Pro that is always associated with this particular report. And the way it can be really handy to you is that the work file, think of it as just a repository, or think of it literally as a manila folder in a filing cabinet where you're going to put this particular report and then everything else associated with that report goes in that same manila folder. Okay, because you kind of get the idea there. So let's say you have some extra photos that you didn't use in the actual report, but you took them of the property and you want to keep track of them. Then you can put them into that work file. Let's say that there are some PDFs that support the valuation, but you didn't put them in the report, but you don't want to send them along with the report, but you do want them to be associated with that particular address for later on. Then you can put it in the work file. Now, the work file only gets created when you go to this particular report and then you do click on Open Work File. As soon as you do that, it will create this work file. So you can see the name of this particular report here, the file name is Pro Sample. So then we have this work file and we have a folder under work file called Pro Sample. And so from here on out, I can dump some stuff in here. So let's say I want to dump some of these pictures in there. So I'll just dump these photos in there. So now we have those photos in there. And that is this particular, they're associated with this report. Close out of there, go back to Appraise-It Pro. And now if I do another search here, find this particular address, there it is, that's the one I'm looking for. I can now click on Open Work File. Or if I have the report open, I can click on Open Work File. And now I've got everything that I dumped in there to associate with this particular report. So it's really good at helping you stay organized with all of your information. In Appraise-It Pro, we're all about customization. So one of the things you can customize is the look of the editing area in Appraise-It Pro. This is the editing window, the editing section, the editing area of Appraise-It Pro. So we're actually editing our file down here in the middle. And of course, in the introduction to Appraise-It Pro, we go over the different panels that you have. There's 4 panels plus the little secret one here under Help that we go over. But let's say you don't like the way that these panels are laid out. Maybe you want to have report over here and you want to have responses over here. Real easy. All you do is you just click on the header for report, drag it out into the middle, then do the same thing with responses. And now we're going to swap them. So I'm going to click on responses. I'm going to drag it over here and you'll see this little wheel comes up and it even gives you like a little example of where that particular window is going to be. See it shaded in blue there. So I'm going to drop it there. And now responses is here. We'll click on report, bring it over here, drop it right there. And now responses is over here and reports over here. Or if I want report to be bigger, let's say I very rarely use format. So I can bring this down here and make this bigger so that I can see more of my report panel. I can also drag it out here to the right and maybe sacrifice some area over here to have this be bigger. But invariably, and by the way, you can also pull these out as you saw before, and now I could just move it over to another monitor if I want to, and stack all of my panels over there on the other monitor. So I have as much, so like, let's do that. I'll click here, we'll drag this out. Now you can't see my other monitor here, but I'm just dragging these over to my other monitor. And now I could stack these over on my other monitor, and now I've got for those of us that are optically challenged, I've got a big old version of my report here that I can see a lot better while I'm typing out. But let's say that we are messing around with this, and invariably what we always end up doing is we just completely goof this whole thing up, and oh my God, what have I done? I'm making it worse. What's going on here? Now everything is just all jacked up. If this ever happens to you, all you have to do is come into view, the view menu up here at the top, click on reset default, say yes, and it will put everything back to factory defaults as far as the view is concerned. That's one of my favorite things to do is getting, actually laying this out the way you really want to. Because one of the things I like to do is the validator is not that important while you're actually typing the report. So a lot of times what I'll do is just shrink it down here. And that way I can see more of my report table of contents. The other thing, sometimes I do go over this in the introduction class. Sometimes I don't. So I like to go over it here. Up here at the top, you may have seen it while I was opening up all of those photo pages. If I want to, let's say, look at the report profile, and then I want to open up the flood map, and I can open up the sketch as well, you'll see that they open up here at the top as tabs, kind of like in a web browser. And just like in a web browser, I can actually move these over. So I can move sketch over here to the left, and I can put report profile over here to the right. And I can even actually grab, let's say, a report profile, pull it out, and then put it over here on the other monitor. And that way I can kind of glance back at it if I need it, if I can do that with, extra comp pages and stuff like that. So I can easily copy and paste comps between them. So I can pull those out, put them onto another monitor. And then if I want to put them back, I can just grab the tab here and then pop it right back in there. And there it is. And then when I'm done with them and I'm done looking at it, I just click on the little X just like I would in Google Chrome or in Microsoft Edge and get rid of them. Heck, I could even get rid of that so there's nothing in the middle. I haven't closed the report. I haven't deleted anything from the report. I'm just not looking at it any longer. And then if I want to go back and open back up the main body of the report, just double click. And now it's opened it back up in a tab. There's also some little things that can make your life a little bit easier. For one, entering a date. If you want to enter like today's date or a date in the future, and sometimes you forget which proper format you're supposed to put it in, there's a little thing in here where you can come in here to a field under text field, which is the text field will usually be brought up whenever you're typing anything. You can just come up here to insert date. Either select today or you can select a date in the future. We'll say Friday the 20th. Click on that. It's going to put the date in the proper UAD format for you automatically. There's also a really cool thing right here in Appraise-It Pro. If you come over here to services, and remember, tools are local tools that are going to be on your computer. Things like the databases and the sketching and stuff like that. Services are going to be internet-based tools. So under services, there is this little thing for get census tract. Now, if you're going to be doing a flood map, it's going to get the census tract for you already. But if you're not doing it, you don't have to worry about going out to the web and grabbing the census tract for a particular address. You just click on census tract right there. It's going to go out to a government web service, grab the census tract for this particular address, and then pop it right in there. And this does come from, is it FEMA? No, census, whatever government, U.S. government agency that keeps track of this, and it's completely escaping me right now. But it goes out to that website, that web service run by that agency, and grabs the proper census tract. So this will always be up to date for you, as long as you're online. Got to be online. One thing, when I'm going over the responses over here, I do show you how you can, assign. You can just double click here to put a response in there. You can also assign it an F key. So this one is assigned to F3. So if it F3 on my keyboard, it's going to pop it in there. You can also just start typing MA and it's going to autofill it for you. But there is one other way that you can do this. So if you want to stay on your keyboard, you have the option of hitting F2 and it will do a drop down here. So let's actually put a new one in here. Let's do Charlotte. Save. There's Charlotte in there. And let's also do Pineville. That's the suburb I grew up in. Hit close. Oh, come out of there. We'll do, let's put Charlotte back in there. There we go. All right. So we've got Matthews, Pineville, and Charlotte. So if I hit F2 here, it's going to put a little list there and I can just use my arrow keys, come down here, select Pineville, and then I've put Pineville in there. If I jump in here, hit F2, I can hit Matthews. Bam, there's Matthews. So it's just one other way that you can actually put stuff into fields. The editing area size, if you are optically challenged like I am and you don't want to wear glasses all the time, or if you're just suffering from old age like I'm starting to, we can't see as well as we used to. Maybe you have some smaller monitors. Maybe you're working on a smaller 1080p laptop screen. you can adjust the size of the text here. Now, I showed you how you could actually sacrifice some of your sizes here for your panels to get a larger editing area. But if you don't want to do that, let's come back here to View, reset the default. If you want to keep these the same, but you want this to be bigger, you can come down here to the lower right-hand corner. You can either drag this little slider, or you can use the pluses or minuses. So if I want, I can make things bigger, but of course the trade-off is that I'm going to have to scroll out here to the left or the right to be able to see everything. But in my particular area, I'll at least be able to see things, and then kind of this will shift over as I kind of tab through things automatically. So if you're having problems seeing things, you can adjust this. But if you have really good eyes, or if you have a really large monitor that's high resolution, maybe you have like you're actually using a 4K television that's mounted to the wall in front of your desk, and it's a really big one. Maybe it's like a 43 inch or maybe a 65 inch or something like that. Well, then you've got more resolution to work with and more size. So what you can actually do is you can start shrinking this down, and at one point you're going to shrink it so much now you can see 2 pages per on the screen at a time. So this can be really helpful for being able to see things, see more pages per time. If you got a really high resolution monitor, you can even do 3 at a time if it's really big and you got a really high resolution. So you can, make this work for you if you want. But if you ever want to put it back the way it's supposed to be, just click on the little number here and then click on fit to width, say okay, and it's going to put it back so that it's automatically going to adjust the width so that everything is available for you. This is really important. Report security. This is different from Appraise-It Classic. In Appraise-It Classic, when you signed the report, that report was quote unquote secured, and then nothing could be modified from that point on. The only problem with that was there were ways around that. And if you signed the report and then sent it to somebody else, it's not encrypted. It's just, if you open it up in Appraise-It Classic, you can't make any changes to it. But there's other ways you could go in there and make changes if somebody really knew what they were doing. So in Appraise-It Pro, we changed around report security. So first of all, report security is now under Home. And what report security is now is, first of all, the thing you need to know is signing a report does nothing. So don't sign the report and think that nobody's going to be able to edit the report. So if I come up here and I actually sign the report, I don't have a signature installed right now, but if I signed the report, I could still edit the report. So in order to actually secure the report, you come up here to secure report. And now you have 2 options. You can require a password to edit the report, and you can require a password to open the report, or both, or either. Okay. And what this will do is this will encrypt your report with military grade encryption, 256-bit encryption, so that when you select this, you have to have that password in order to open it, view it, whatever. So if you email that report to a colleague, or email it to a friend, or email it to a client, it can't be intercepted in transit and opened up and looked at all the GUI NuGet Center. Nothing, you can't do that. So if you want to really secure something, you can just go ahead and check this box, give it the password. But security is only as good as the people using it. So don't secure the report, email it, and in the body of the email, don't put the password. But people do that all the time. Don't do that. At the very least, send the report, then send another email with the password in it. So send them separately. Even that's not great. I wouldn't do that. The best practice would be to send the password along another means. So email them the report and then maybe text them the password, or call them and give them the password. But don't send the password along with the report. Do that, and no one will be able to look at that report when it's in transit, and no one will be able to do anything with the report when it is on your computer, because it will be encrypted. And so if you've got a coworker who is a little bit too nosy at what's going on and what you're doing, you can encrypt this, and then even if it's on the network, they won't be able to open it up and look at it and make changes or do anything to it. Okay. So this is true report security in Appraise-It Pro. I sometimes go over this in the introduction class, but I do want to go over it here a second time just because it's very important. Whenever you are starting a new report, you need to make sure that this rule set is set to the correct rule set. There's only 2 of them right now. There's UCDP, which is the regular UAD report set, rule set. And then there is FHA. If you're doing an FHA report, select FHA. But it will remember this from one time to another. So if the next report you do is just standard UAD, make sure you change this back. That is because real-time validation and then the comprehensive validation that you will invoke by clicking on the validate button at the end of your report when you're done with it and you're doing your final checks, you want to make sure that it's going to do that via the correct rule set. That being said, the FHA rule set and the UCDB rule set are very, very, very similar. There's only a couple of key differences, but you want to make sure that you're checking on the right rule set. So just keep that in mind and remember to select the correct rule set when you're ready, when you're starting out on your report. I'm just looking at a couple of more here because we're kind of running out of time. Scripting. I don't want to go too far into scripting. Scripting in Appraise-It Pro is very powerful. If you are somebody who is into programming or you have a programming background, you've done programming before, there is a very powerful scripting language in Appraise-It Pro. There was an Appraise-It Classic as well. It was called Frank Basic and Appraise-It Classic. That's what we called it because the guy who designed it many moons ago at SFREP was named Frank. So they called it Frank Basic. In Appraise-It Pro, we use a scripting language, much more modern one called Lua, which is used as an open source scripting language used all over the internet. And if you want, you can teach yourself how to do scripting in Appraise-It Pro, and you can do things like invoking macros that will go over many pages, copying things from one place to another. You can even, build an integration with a spreadsheet in Microsoft Office, like using Excel that you have and being able to bring that information into Appraise-It Pro. There's so many things that you can do with that scripting language. I am not going to go over all of that today, but what I will do is I will point you out to over here under support. Click on this right here, API and scripting documentation. When you click on that, it will open up this website, which is the Appraise-It Pro integration. It's api.sfrep.com. Come on over here to scripting API, and it gives you an introduction, gives you teaches you how to do the scripts, gives you sample scripts, and gives you script references. So this is all written just for those of you who are a little bit into programming and kind of want to teach yourself the Appraise-It Pro programming language called Lua, where you will be able to do some crazy stuff. Now, if you're not a programmer and you have a specific thing that you want to be able to do in Appraise-It Pro, contact our tech support. So for those of you who don't know, our tech support is can be reached at tech@sfrep.com or at 800-644-4051. You can contact them and they will be happy to actually write scripts for you based on what you want it to do. And you guys can talk and work out usually we do like $50 an hour, but you guys can work out an actual cost. Go back and forth and figure out what you guys want to do. But our tech support can write these scripts for you. So you want to do something that is going to be, no, there's no compiler needed, Howard. It is all built in. The scripting is built into Appraise-It Pro. Now, if you're going to be, using the COM API or the .NET Framework API to get information to and from Appraise-It Pro, then there may be a compiler needed in there. I am not a programmer. I have a degree in computer information systems, which means I know how to manage programmers, but it's been 20 years since I've done programming myself. So, but I don't believe, there isn't going to be a compiler needed for the scripting inside of Appraise-It Pro. And the way that you actually use and invoke the scripting is, I don't have one anymore, but I used to have a script. What you do is you basically dump the scripts into a response, and then you invoke it by double clicking or assigning it to F3. That invokes the script, and then it'll do its thing. Let's see, anything else? Make sure you get your questions in while we're kind of wrapping up here, and I'll be happy to answer them. And if they're not necessarily about Appraise-It Pro, if you got questions about technology, we do a webinar here. Let me actually show you. Let me pull over our website. So everybody knows our website. It's sfrep.com. And if you go to our website, mouse over training, come down here to training calendar. Don't click on it, just mouse over it, and then come down to training calendar. You'll see today, this is the one you're in right now, Appraise-It Pro tips and tricks. If you come on over here, you can see our next webinar. I generally do one a week. The next webinar is one of my favorites, which is buying a new computer. And this is where we talk everything technology related to appraising. We kind of structure it around, hey, I want to buy a new computer. What do I need? What's best for Appraise-It Pro? The long and short of it is anything out on the market right now will run Appraise-It Pro. Some computers will run it way better than others. And that's kind of what we go over. Kind of go over the sales that are going on right now at places like Staples, Amazon, Best Buy. So you can find the best computer that's going to work for you. And then I also answer a lot of questions about technology. I've been using technology since I think I got my first computer in '85. So I've been doing it for a while. And it's always been a hobby of mine. I'm also a amateur photographer. So if you want to ask questions about photography, how to get better photos, I can help you out there as well. What kind of cameras to use. So we'll do that coming up on the 26th at noon Eastern. All these times are in Eastern time. And then on February 2nd, we've got one dealing with photos in Appraise-It Pro. We're going to talk all about taking photos for your appraisals and how to get them into Appraise-It Pro. Tara asks, can two selected pages be viewed horizontally at the same time? An example would be the copy 1 through 3 page and the 4 through 6 page. Yes. Let me get back over to Appraise-It Pro. I think this is what you're asking. So if I open up, let's do sales comps 4 through 6. So here we're going to have comps 1 through 3 and then comps 4 through 6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out the tab for comps 4 through 6. And then I'm going to click and I'm going to do it just like this. And I think that's what you were asking. So now I have comps 4 through 6 on the bottom and 1 through 3 on the top. Have a good one, Ann. And yeah, Tara, you said comp pages. So I think that's what you were thinking about there. So there's the comp 1 through 3. There's comp 4 through 6. We could also close this one, and let's say we want to do comp 7 through 9. We can do the same thing with that. So we'll open up comp 7 through 9, and there we go. And then if I want, I can put them back by popping them right back in there, and I can view them side by side. If you want to do them vertically, which you may have wanted to do, I can click and do them vertically as well. So now I've got comps 1 through 3 I got 7 through 9 over here, and I've got 4 through 6, so I could actually flip-flop these. And then bring this one out. And there we go. 4 through 6 and 7 through 9. Is there anything else I wanted to go over here? Oh, coming over here to support. If you need to email support, of course, you are welcome to, use our tech email address, tech@sfrep.com. That's going to go, the way that works is when you send an email to tech@sfrep.com, it blasts out to all of our tech support people. Now, we all work from home, so we're very decentralized now. After COVID, we decided to all be work from home. It's worked out great. You send an email to this email address, it is going to blast out to everybody. But you can also come over here to support, and you can click on email, and this will open up an email form which you can fill out. It will also blast the email out to everybody in tech support. So this will be a really quick way to get a hold of our tech support if you want to do that. And then make sure you do that instead of using this send feedback. The send feedback is great if you want to, if you've got an idea to make Appraise-It Pro better, you can use this send feedback. It will also open up a little page here where then you can use this little feedback. And what that does is that's going to blast out to everybody in the company. And then generally I answer them unless somebody else at the company is going to be better at answering them. But Wayne, our owner, also gets it as well. So that's a great way to do feedback for us. Matt, I had something scheduled with you today. Hopefully we'll reschedule that for later. Matt asks, if securing a report, and it can be, if securing a report, I think you meant can. If securing a report, can it be opened and uploaded in the ENV appraise report? Yes. So all you have to do is, even if it's secured, you just go ahead and open it up, type in the password as needed, come over here to orders, and then select AI Ready ENV. And if you need to export a report in the ENV format, but it's not going through AI Ready, maybe your lender or your AMC requested an ENV format, you can also use this. I have a whole video on that, which you can access by going to support, clicking on knowledge base, and I think you can search for ENV and how to create an ENV file. Boom, right there. It's got step-by-step instructions for you. And I think there's one, let's see. Get rid of these. Come back here. So yeah, there's also a video available for that as well. Where am I? There we are. I tell you, Windows 11, sometimes. I hate that Windows 11 forces you to use these icons instead of having the actual written out text, which is what I was doing in Windows 10. But oh well, alas. Matt also asks, Forms 1004 Hybrid P. We do have the 1004P. In order to get that, you need to contact our tech support, and they will turn that on for you in Appraise-It Pro. There's a way that you can turn that on. We didn't want to have the P available for everyone because only certain appraisers use that, and we didn't want people accidentally using the 1004P. But it is available. Just contact tech support, and they can turn that on for you. Also from Matt, Inspect a Lot minimum Apple iPad version that will allow me to connect to my Android for transferring. It only works on the iPad, and it will work on. They just changed it, so I think it is like. It's iPad OS version. I want to say 12, but I'm not 100% sure. Any iPad that is currently supported, which I think goes back to like the iPad Air first generation, any iPad that's like less than 6 years old will run Appraise-It Pro or will run Inspect a Lot just fine. However, if you got a six-year-old iPad, go buy a new iPad. Like seriously, that battery is probably shot at this point. So yeah, any of the new iPads, including the iPad mini, the iPad 10th generation, the current iPad Air, and both of the current iPad Pros will run Inspect a Lot just fine. And Matt, I did send you an email to work on rescheduling what we had scheduled for before this webinar. So, all right. Remember, if you have a question after you have actually completed this, like, we're doing this webinar on Monday the 16th at 2 p.m. hour Eastern time. If you have a question and you're watching this after the fact, then just email me directly, training@sfrep.com. I will be happy to answer any questions that you might have. And you can always just send a question there. I can also set up one-on-one trainings with you as well. So just send that request to training@sfrep.com. Remember, our next webinar is going to be, let's see here. It's going to be next week. Let's do this. Go over here to training. Next webinar is going to be on buying a new computer. That's going to be on the 26th at 12 noon Eastern time. We are predominantly on the East Coast, so we go by Eastern time. We do have, of course, some people in Baton Rouge, which is Central, but we as a company generally work on Eastern time. So that's going to be 12 p.m. Eastern time. So that would be 9 a.m. on the West Coast if you are of the West Coast variety of person. It has been great having you guys. You guys had some great questions. I love interacting with you guys. Once again, if you have any questions after the fact, just email me directly, training@sfrep.com. If you need immediate assistance, though, give our tech support a call at 800-644-4051. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys showing up, and I hope to see you guys soon. Once again, if you do want to set up one-on-one training, just email training@sfrep.com. You guys have an awesome week, a productive week, and we will see you next week where we're going to be talking about technology. You guys have an awesome rest of your day.